Aston Villa, they go there yesterday to the Emirates and they win by 2-0. I'll get on to Ollie Watkins in a second. But they've moved into pole position for Champions League football. I mean, getting there or staying there, what's harder? I mean, they've got themselves into this position. I mean, look at what happened to Newcastle. Newcastle got into Champions League position, got into the Champions League, have dropped down, although they had a cracking win at the weekend. But getting into the Champions League positions or staying in them.
You're talking about the following season and the season after that,
season,
keeping the whole thing going. Well,
I mean, they've done well getting here, Villa.
Well, getting there, this particular season has been terrific. But you are talking about a side that's actually won the European Cup way back in 1982, so they do have a history of it. So and there's an entitlement, believe it or not, with Aston Villa fans. They feel as if they should be there. They've been in the doldrums for quite a number of years now, but it's been a really terrific fight back. Absolutely galvanised by the manager. He's done terrifically well. Now, but staying there will be a problem because...
Did that expectation weigh on you? The European Cup win in 82, as you described? When you became Villa manager, this expectation amongst the Villa support.
No. It doesn't. No, the word "way" would be inappropriate. The word is that to me that is exactly what you wanted. So what I did do was there was a lot of pictures of the 82 team taken away under Mr. Ellis because Doug didn't want that part of history because he wasn't involved with Aston Villa at the time. And the pictures came down. So I reinstated the pictures for the side. And this is what I wanted Aston Villa, my team, to aspire to try. We might not get there, as Martin Luther King said, might not get there, but you have to aspire to it. And that's it. So I wanted the photographs of the 82 side right around so that the players, and some of my players come into the football club, wouldn't have known anything about the 82 side. But I wanted to make sure that they did do.
You found them in the stadium somewhere. Doug hadn't chucked them out.
Yeah.
Is it because you've gone down that way? Because I spoke to a lot of people, I had Trevor with me, late Trevor Francis at Crystal Palace, and they talked about the legacy of the forest deeds of the 80s and weighing heavily on the club and weighing on the next generation of players. And a lot of the old players would be around still, and it would still be thrown back to what Clough had done and what Forest had done in the 80s. But you were in the mindset that the past is something that you should very much embrace and ram down the throat of the next generation to remind them of the size and scale of the football club. Is that what your thinking was?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Because I wanted that. Whatever you do, you can't delete that history. So you want to. So the best thing to do is trying to embrace it. And I think that if it's there in front of you, some young players who would have no idea about what had happened, 20, 30, 40 years ago, whatever, might actually think about it. He might actually decide, do you know what? I'll have a little look at this history because I'm
look how lucky I am to be here at this great football club.
That's the point. That was the point.
Did you always feel Villa were a Champions League club in waiting,
Of
Martin?
course.
In spite of your best efforts, you couldn't quite get them there. Damn close.
That's right. So we finished 6 in 3 consecutive years. Each time we get better points. But as what was happening was that Manchester City were getting really strong at that side. We've just heard Dave's conversation there with us about what was happening. There was something getting in place, and Manchester City did eventually win the Premier League, and they won the Premier League a couple of times, I think, without Guardiola being there at that stage. But he has taken it to a new level again. But the point I'm making is that Aston Villa do have the history. We didn't. We finished 3 consecutive years. We were vying with Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City for that 4th spot a couple of times. But things, it didn't develop. That's fine, okay. But now it looks with this manager that they can do it.
I don't just think it looks with this manager. I think with the ownership model as well. I think if you look at the ownership model that Villa have. They have some very sensible intellectual capital in their boardroom that understand sports businesses. They've gone through their moments. They've gone through the evolution of taking it off, buying Villa when they were in trouble. But like most football clubs are often bought when there's distress. They bought Villa when they were in distress. But, Bruce got them to a certain point. Dean Smith took them to the next level. I think their major mistake they made was Gerrard, but you learn those lessons. And Unai Emery's landed in a dugout. And the difference between having a really grown-up, sophisticated thinking coach and a group of owners that are behind their manager. They, a couple of seasons ago, 2-3 seasons ago, when Jack Grealish was being sold, or what's going to happen to Aston Villa, they deployed that money. They bought better players for the team and for the unit. And I think that Villa are built to be a Champions League club. I think they have the infrastructure, size and scale of the club, a degree of expectation amongst their fan base, albeit in recent times undelivered upon expectation. And now they've got the financial resources alongside the manager that's capable. This is a manager that wins European competitions in previous incarnations and only got hounded out of Arsenal because of timing and segments of the media that decided because he didn't speak the Queen's English, he was parodiable. They could parody him.
We never hear Sawira Zaridans making a silly statement or even a questionable statement, do we? They stay out of it, Simon.
Well, I don't think you hear a lot of the I mean, how many questionable statements do we hear being made by most of the senior executives at big football clubs? Most of them are mute. And you don't hear much of them say. You don't hear Daniel Levy saying very much, do you? You don't hear much from Arsenal. In terms, I mean, of course, they made that ridiculous support of Arteta when he was gathering his rant about the worst referees in Europe. But most of the time, you don't hear very much. Only the inexperienced ones. You heard from Newcastle last year after losing the League Cup that they're going to win every single competition in ensuing years. That might be just experience. That possibly won't be repeated. But I think you've got to look at Newcastle. Like you made the point about Newcastle getting to the Champions League. Newcastle are back inside the top 6 now. And that is still... I think they were going to have to move heaven and earth. They're still building. They don't have the advantages that other clubs have had. They've got enormous wealth that both Chelsea and Man City were able to deploy, and Newcastle haven't been able to be able to build quickly. Yet they still got into the Champions League in their first season of the ownership proper.
Yeah, Ollie Watkins did not do too badly yesterday in the colours of Aston Villa when he scored an absolute peach of a second goal, and they came away with the win at the Emirates. Not that long ago, Martin, Troy Deeney was on this show, and we were talking about what Ollie Watkins actually is.
I think Ollie, and it's going to sound negative, but I promise you it's not. He's having a fantastic season, but he's a winger trying to be a striker, and that's just who he is. He's very good at being a striker, but whenever Ollie runs through 1v1 for Villa, I've done many a game this season, I'm still not convinced he's going to score.
And now Ollie Watkins has posted Troy Deeney, not bad for a winger trying to be a striker. He's had a little swipe back at Troy.
Maybe that's why Troy lasted 6 games as a manager. Maybe he just didn't recognise a winger or a striker. Ollie Watkins has had a phenomenal season. It's absolutely phenomenal. I think it's 19 league goals or 20 league goals?
That's right.
Whatever it may be.
Second top goal scorer.
So he has a really great season.
Yeah.
And I don't. He you talked about once you get there to stay there. Then next couple of seasons, I think will determine whether Ollie Watkins is the centre forward that Aston Villa fans think he is at this minute. But he's been terrific, absolutely terrific.
Do you think he is? Do you think he's the centre forward that we all think he was? I mean, you used to rave about him, Simon.
Well, I think what has happened, and I think he has confessed this himself. I think that the manager has helped him greatly. He has said to him, "Don't do a lot of needless running. You're running. You do not want to be picking." Maybe this is the point that Troy was making, that he found himself out in the wing a lot of times when he shouldn't have been. If he's going to be a centre forward, this is where the goals are going to be scored. So don't do a lot of needless running. Do the running that's necessary and important. And I think that's what he's done this season, and it's paid dividends.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.